This is Calvin Castine. It's August 4th, 2000. And we're north of the border in beautiful downtown Hemmingford across from the school. I'm here because a couple of gentlemen have invited us up here to take a look at the changes they've made in their museums here in Hemmingford. And we're going to talk to at least two gentlemen today. And we're going to fill you in. We're doing this on this August 4th and we're rushing it on to show on August 6th for those of you watching in the year 2000. We're doing this so that you can have time to come down here and take part. The museums will be open all week long, with climaxing on next Sunday, the 13th, with the big parade here. Old Home Week in Hemmingford. So for those of you watching this in the year 2000, consider this an invitation to come to Hemmingford this coming week, particularly on Sunday. Our intent was to start with Mr. Thomas Cleland inside that building there, at part of this museum complex. But instead we're going to go into the Keddy mill and talk with Mr. Stanley Triggs, who did give us a nice tour last year when Gordy Little was here with us. Because where Mr. Cleland is, they had some people just stop in unexpected. Mr. Cleland is here because I called and asked him to show up today. So luckily for the people who showed up from Florida, he was there, and the information they need is available. And we're going to stop right now to this gentleman right here, Mr. Stanley Triggs. How are you, Stanley?
Fine. Nice to see you again.
Same here. We'll shake microphones. Can't shake hands. I'll get you on my left side because that's easier when I'm holding the camera. You got some changes this year, Stanley?
We have two new exhibitions upstairs and a few new items in the farm equipment section.
All right. Shall we get underway?
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to head right to the back. All right. We have some plows and one bottom plows. These are all horse-drawn plows, except for this one here, which we're not sure of. It's a two-bottom plow. Let's see what the little sign says. All it says is it's a two-furrow plow, and it's a Massey Harris. We've come around the corner, and as Stanley pointed out, there's really nothing new here, is there? When I come here looking for something new, I'm in the wrong place.
You're right. Most things are 100 years old and maybe more, some back to 1870.
All right, I could see this being pulled by horses and people going for a ride. What is this called?
Well, it's called a barlow. It's a type of a winter sleigh. It's got this little thing here. It's for extra passengers. You can stand up here. Or you can put your groceries in there and shut the door.
Okay, yeah, there's a little trunk there, sort of. And it's opened at both ends. And let's see, wooden sleigh called a barlow. Andy Latour from Hemmingford owns this. Most of the stuff you have here, Stanley, are on loan? On loan, yeah, because we don't own the property yet. We're looking for ways to buy the property. Okay, when you say we, tell us who we is.
It's a committee of local citizens and have got together to create this museum. About 20 people of the community here.
And there's a total of 3 buildings, are there?
There's 3 buildings. This one is the farm equipment, horse-drawn farm equipment. And upstairs we have paintings and drawings and small things they used in the barn, like cream separators and forges, anvils, and there's a horse clipper, hand-operated horse clipper, things like that.
Okay, so if anything was tractor pulled, you don't want it in here? Is that the idea? You want to go as far back as horse-drawn?
That's it. I wanted to show the big change in farming brought on by the Industrial Revolution. And also, to keep the story simple, I wanted to just stick to horse-drawn equipment. Because if you mix horse and tractor up together, you lose track of the story. So
different eras.
Everything is laid out in the order that it was used on the field, you see. Starting with the plows, and then the harrows, and the rollers, and seeders, and mowers, and to tell the whole story of how the crops were grown and harvested.
So you take it right from the spring when they would be or fall. It depends when you plow your field. Some people would plow in the fall for the next spring, but I imagine a lot of them would plow in the spring and then work their fields and then plant and harvest.
Yeah. We have another new, a new old piece of equipment here. It's
Stanley and I will be doing a jig for a little bit later for your entertainment. But
this is a side delivery rake, commonly called a side rake. It was drawn by 2 horses usually, sometimes 3. But the pole has been cut off for use on a tractor. But it's very old. It's one of the earliest ones, I'm told, by the local farmers, because it has wood up on it. But it's just been restored this spring by a friend of mine. Took him 4 Saturday mornings to scrape it and paint it. So it looks quite pretty now.
So is
the
this
original colors?
Was this in a barn or in a field, rusting away?
No, this was in a barn. Otherwise, the wood would be all rotten.
So that's the original wood then?
Yeah. So it's probably 100 years old. This one. At least the style is 100 years old because the wood went out quite soon. It didn't work too well. This one. This style, according to the local farmers.
I'm very familiar with side rakes. I haven't grown up on a farm, but I didn't realize that they had them back in the horse-drawn days. I thought they just used the dump rake.
Oh no, these were the dump rake was the earliest, of course. But I think this is pre 1900 that the side rake came out.
All right, I always learn something when I come on these little treks, and you figure it was the original color was the red and yellow. Here's a dump rake right next to it here that remained popular even after the side rake came into effect. I don't see too many farmers dump raking anymore, but I know when I was a youngster, after you did your baling, you'd go around with your dump rake, and you'd pick up what was left and put it in windrows, and maybe get a few extra bales.
Yeah, well, there's still a few farmers around here in the Chateauguay Valley that use horses. Most of them have a tractor as well, because it's hard to put a front-end loader on a horse.
That's true. But you're saying there's some that still use horses for farming purposes? Are they?
Yeah.
Are they Amish or just religious region? Just
local people, and not right around Hemmingford, but further west in Franklin.
Okay, and refresh my memory here. What is this wagon right here?
Oh, this is an orchard sprayer. It's used for spraying the apples for the bugs and worms, and also for spraying the herbs, the weeds. It's also used in the field to a certain extent, spraying the corn to get rid of the weeds, but mostly an orchard sprayer. It's operated by a one-cylinder gasoline engine. But it was pulled by the horses, so it legitimately belongs here.
Yeah, the one-cylinder engines, most of those you see aren't mobile. They're unless there's something they put little wheels on a cart, but most of those you see aren't too mobile. So this one here that had a chariot to drag it around. Now I've just came from Chazy maybe a couple hours before I came here, and there's a farm out there with one of these, probably a newer model than this. This is all wooden here. It's just sitting out there rusting away, and it's a shame.
Oh yeah. Well, we were lucky to find this inside of a barn. So the wood is all just like new. It even has the paint on it. The original paint, red and green on the deck there.
And this is, of course, is a hay loader, and this is what they used before the baler became popular and mobile. You would put it on your wagon with this, and then pitch it off with the forks. So you'd have oh, right here. You've got the big forks to come and pull, and
Yeah, we don't have this set up.
but this little drawing here gives you an idea.
Yeah, the points are up now, and it's holding the hay. And when you get the fork on the carriage in the right place, you pull a lever, and the forks go straight, and the hay drops down.
You'd have a track on the top of the barn, and horses would pull it, and you'd release it. And my job when I was about 4 or 5 years old was to relay the whoa. I'd sit next to the barn, and when the people inside had it where they wanted to, they'd holler whoa, and I'd holler whoa to the guy on the team, and he'd stop, and they'd drop the hay.
Oh, yeah.
So I had a very important job there, relaying the whoa.
It must have been, yeah. We did a similar job. The horse was under here, under the single tree, and we operated the handles and scooped up the dirt or the horse manure or whatever.
Or maybe even the snow.
Yeah, it's snow.
Well, instead of a front end loader, it was a back end loader.
Back end loader, yeah.
And once in a while, the horses might add to what you were picking up as they were going along too, wouldn't they?
Yeah, some fresh manure. Advertisement. It's around 1910. An advertising sale of Percheron horses.
Well, I think that things like that are very helpful for the people coming through here to get an idea of how these tools were actually used. Before I get too far into this, Stanley, could you tell us about the hours of the museum?
Oh, we're open from 10 to 5. And from today, August the 4th, to August the 13th, Sunday.
So all this coming week, and then up to the week of the parade of the 13th, you'll be open.
That's right, yeah, every day. And we'll have a little cafe, which will be open all of that time, too.
So refreshments are available there?
Yeah, you can buy a meal, or you can buy sandwiches, and tea and coffee and soft drinks.
And I imagine all the profits to support your group?
Well, no, we're not that organized. We don't have time to run a cafe, but we lease it out, yeah.
Okay.
And it's a convenience for the people that visit the museum.
And how'd you get interested in, let's just walk around here and look at some of these old planning stuff here, and you can tell me how you came to be so interested in farm equipment. Are you a farmer?
No, I'm not a farmer, but I have a horse of my own, a work horse, 1,250 pounds, a Belgian, and I use it for hauling logs and firewood, and I used to take groups around like the Girl Guides or a bunch of my children's friends. So I worked in the city, and I never did get around to really farming my property, but I was always interested in the old horse-drawn tools. And when a group was formed, I got into this museum.
Okay, now, and you see the farmers going down the road now with their harrows that can probably harrow 50 to 60 feet wide, and you see, compare it with something like this here.
This is a disc harrow. It's about 8 feet wide. That was the latest thing in about the 1870s.
And unless the man and the little things on the side were to add weight, you could put some rocks in there and add weight to the...
That's it, yeah.
So you could go in a little bit deeper into the soil and break it up. And this roller here, go ahead.
A nice picture there of a very old disc harrow, 1860s. It's a triangular in shape. And you mentioned the wooden roller. It's a wooden roller. It's made of a big hemlock log. don't know the age of that.
And that's, of course, to compact the soil. Usually, one time we use our rollers when we're planting oats.
Oh, yes.
Now, what's this little
Well, this
potato
is
planter here?
a one-horse corn planter. Does one row at a time. That's a little faster than the older method.
Yes.
This is a one-man horse planter, or one child. You do like this, you push it down in the soil, and then you put the handles together, and one seed drops out from the seed bin here, down through a little chute into the ground. Then you take another step, and do it again. And once you get onto it, they say that you can plant an acre of corn very fast. Of course, the children would have their own planters as well, so the whole family would be working at it.
Well, no sense letting the adults have all the fun.
Now, this is an interesting thing. This is a fine seed planter. You just push it along the ground and try to keep your rows straight, and you plant things like carrots or turnips or things like that, or beets. So the man that lent us that is 89 years old, I think he is now, and he said when he was a little boy, he and his brother used to act as the horses. There'd be a rope tied from the handles, and they'd have a stick across, and they'd be the team of horses, and the father would steer. They planted an acre of turnips every year.
Wow.
And the turnips were mostly for the cattle, but they'd sell a few and eat some themselves. So hanging up here is all the old-fashioned ways of doing the job, and this is a big 11-row cedar. To plant, you could plant corn or barley or oats, but not the fine seeds like carrots.
And you'd have to have a pretty good team on this. This is a heavy implement.
Two horses would pull that.
Yeah.
There's a nice picture of a team in action on a cedar.
I don't know if the farmer would dress quite that daintily, though.
Oh no, they look like coach horses, actually.
Yeah.
Then we have the mowers. This is a one-horse mower and a two-horse mower over here.
All right, so you got some two-horse equipment in here too, because you don't want to be known as a one-horse operation here, right?
Right. And the old-fashioned way, the scythes hanging above. That's a hay scythe, and this is for brush with a thick, heavy blade. Now here's one of the most important pieces of equipment, and that's the feed bag. At noon, when you're way out in the field, you just tie this onto the horse's nose and he'd eat his oats. Or maybe you're working in the bush in the wintertime, hauling logs for firewood.
Yeah, but he's probably thirstier as much as hungry too.
Yeah, they needed a good drink once in a while.
I imagine they'd find a pond somewhere,
And this is a dump cart here.
complete with stuff to dump, huh?
Yeah, that's our storage closet. And it dumps very easily.
What's
that little lever up, and then you can dump it by hand.
Okay. And this is owned by Stanley Triggs.
And over here is a dog cart pulled by a big Newfoundland dog or a St. Bernard or such like that.
Now, I don't know where it disappeared to, but when I was a kid, we had one of these up over our garage. And I never quite knew what the heck it was. So I'm about to find out. What is it?
Well, it's for clipping horses. It looks like you could shear sheep with it too. But it's hand operated. You turn this handle, but it doesn't work now. It's all seized up,
So,
rusty here. So, but it could be made operable.
Would it create some kind of electricity, or
No,
it just
turns a cable in here, you see?
and then that
You
moves
turn
the
the
teeth back
handle
and
and these
forth?
gears mesh, and that operates the clippers.
Okay, I haven't seen it in years, but it used to be up there over my car garage. And
Maybe it's still there.
no, it's not there. I just
No.
cleaned that out last fall, and
Too bad.
it's gone.
And this is
Maybe this is it. Somebody come.
this is to hone the blade of the clippers. You put the blade in there, and it presses down on the steel, and that hones the blade. Now, if it was really dull, you'd have to put it on a whetstone, I guess, but that's the finishing touch, like a razor, you know,
Right,
the razor strop.
right.
This is new this year. This is a log carrier, small log. You get two men on each side there. Of course, if you had 4 sets, you could have 4 men on each end. But when you lift the log up, these points dig into the wood. And this is a similar thing for ice. You want to carry a block of ice. In the old days, they used to get cut ice out of the river, and then they'd haul it home on the sleighs and put it in an ice house, usually made of logs, and then it was packed around with sawdust, and layers of sawdust in between each layer of ice, and it would last over the summer.
I'm sure ice tongs and ice picks were as common as toothbrushes back then.
Oh yeah, they're indispensable.
Now, this also a log grabber here, this bigger one?
Oh, that's for pulling logs out of the bush. Yeah. You need a pretty big log, though, for that, because otherwise the points don't stick into the log. You need the weight.
Right.
So you need something like 18 inches or a foot at least. And this is a buck saw, cutting up your firewood. And this is a saw for cutting the trees down and bucking them up into log lengths.
Any idea when that became popular? I was just reading that Hemmingford book that was put out last year, that big thick one, and they talked about potash and so on, and they said there were no saws like that at that time. It was all done by axe in the early 1800s.
For some reason, I don't know why, they used to fall the trees with axes, and then they'd buck them with the saw. They would cut the trees into length with the saw, but why, I don't know. Maybe the steel wasn't as good, and maybe the saw would pinch in the falling, and they'd have to reset it too often. I don't know, but I have pictures. I've seen pictures where in the 1871 where they're still chopping trees down with axes in big operations too, not just a farmer in his back 40,
Right.
but in big operations on the upper Ottawa River. And there'd be 2 men on each tree chopping them down.
And of course, if you want to see some history of wood chopping, go up to the Adirondack Museum at Blue Mountain Lake in the Adirondacks. Yeah, of course, that's logging country, and they got
I've been there, yeah.
tremendous amount of history on cutting wood and logging. There's a milk cart. I don't know if that. I can't remember if that was here a year ago. That milk cart.
That was here, yeah, but it's got a new cream can. Well, it's not exactly new. It's a bit rusty here, but
We have to find another word that means new, but not new.
recently acquired. But it says here E. Cousins Dairy Limited, and I've learned since that it was a Montreal dairy, and they used to ship on the train to Montreal.
Well, we had a smaller milk cart that I'd try to use to learn how to skate and go out in the ice with the with the milk cart, and I'd still bang my head, and I never did learn how to skate. But
Oh, no? Wow. Well, these are quite rare now because people have left them outside and they rot.
And you know the thing is, back before the days of bulk tanks, most of the farmers' milk houses weren't real close to the barn. They were 20, 30, 50 feet away. They'd have to bring the milk from the barn to the milk house. I don't know why so many farmers, not all of them I'm sure, but so many farmers didn't have their milk house right attached to the barn. But so many of them, my family's farm was one of them. The milk house was probably 40 or 50 feet away. Then when they put in the bulk tank, they put the milk house next to the barn.
Well, maybe they're looking for shade or something.
Could be.
Yeah.
It could be.
Sometimes there was a well, and they put it over the well or near the well.
It was near the well. It was one building away from the well.
Yeah.
Because you had to fill up the water cooler.
Yeah.
And
I think that was the important thing. And then they had to take it to the road every morning.
Yeah.
And this is what they'd use in the wintertime. A little sleigh. Sometimes a bigger one, but pulled by hand. And this, we had this last year. This is a milk churn, butter churn. But we couldn't use it because it was too falling apart and dirty. But a friend of mine restored it, Jim Laurie. He has a little welding outfit, so he welded the bottom and he washed it all, and he discovered the original color, so he repainted it.
Wow, a nice job.
Yeah, beautiful job.
Okay.
Well, let's go over here and get a nice shot of our mascot.
You have a mascot.
This is our mascot. He's pulling a bobsleigh. This bobsleigh was made in 1922 for a young boy who was 8 years old at the time. And I bought this at his auction when he sold his farm. But he had a big dog and he used to have the dog pull it around and pull fence posts and things like that.
Pull fence posts.
Yeah, we're just playing, just for fun.
That's good. That harness and everything came with it?
Oh, no, that's the harness I made a few years ago for a dog I had.
So you've attached your dog to that thing and made your dog work? Yeah.
Yeah.
Does he like that?
Firewood, mostly just for a game, but it was lots of fun.
Does he enjoy it?
Well, some dogs are good pullers, some are not. I used to have Newfoundland dogs, and it's just like people. Some people like to work, and others don't.
Yeah.
So, Newfoundlands are bred to work, but not all of them are good workers. So.
We're talking about the dogs, not the people, right?
Both.
Both. Oh. Stanley Trigg said that. Tell me about the artwork here before we get...
Oh, yeah, sure, okay. Well, these are all paintings of local farms and houses, barns and fields or landscapes, all by local artists. They date back to about 1946. And they're all organized by the location, the road that they're on. Here's St. Bernard, showing Roxham Road. And they're all on loan from the people that own the paintings.
That's quite an endeavor to gather up all these pieces of art.
Well, it took a little time, but there was no hesitation on the part of the people. They were eager to have their collections shown. So I was very pleased at that.
I would think so, because I imagine most of these are hanging in prominent places in their homes right now.
Oh yeah, they just stripped their walls of.
Yeah. But just for a month or so.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Now you were open prior to this week of the Old Home Week, but how long do you stay open in a normal summer? I know you're still establishing stuff, but
we open on July the 8th, and we're going to close a week Sunday. August the 13th will be the last day.
So on July the 8th, starting then, you were open on weekends or on Saturday?
On weekends, and now we'll be open every day till the 13th. The 13th, that's the day of the big parade here in Hemmingford.
Is that at 11 or 1? I can't remember when it is. I better find out because I'm going to tape it.
I I'm not sure.
We better find out and make that part of this tape.
The schedule is downstairs.
All right. This is for when people weren't working here, huh?
Oh, that's for the attendant. When he or she gets tired of it.
It's safe to sit on, you're saying?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's a good one.
Something that old.
It's just a little shop one.
Yeah. You even got some pictures of Moors here.
Oh, yeah. That's the bridge over the Great Chazy River in Percy Mills?
Perry's Mills?
Perry Mills, yeah. Quite an individual interpretation. This is a house on the way to Moors, on what they call Hemmingford Road. And this is a winter scene of a little house down around Moors. And some barns over here. I think that's closer to Champlain, actually.
Okay, I think I recognize that area right there on Route 11. At least that looks like the one I'm thinking of.
Yeah. And there's a little field over here. It's quite a nice painting.
That could be any field, no.
Yeah.
They're saying fields close to Moors, but it's kind of hard to prove that one way or another. Yeah. That could very easily be a field anywhere in the country, I guess, in North America.
Well, not in BC, because you'd have great mountains in the background.
Well, it's cloudy. Well, those clouds are mountains. Okay, and you got Brownlee Road and Sherrington. And
this is the farm where that big hay loader came from, and the hay wagon and the manure spreader. They were actually in this shed right here.
now this Winifred Jennison,
Jennison, yeah.
she's painted quite a few of these, I see.
Oh, I think there's 20 of hers in the whole show. She's she lives right here on this street here, on 202. She goes under her married name, Mrs. Shorrock. She runs an antique store.
Okay.
But her paintings are all in her maiden name.
Okay, what else we have new up here, Stanley? I think this
Here.
stove stuff here is new, huh?
Yeah. These are drawings that I got out of an old book. And so I, near the drawings, I put different artifacts. In this case, it's oven doors off an old cook stove. Very fancy and ornate. And these are that's either off a bake oven or a little cook stove of some sort. I found them in the dirt near my old barn, which is not there anymore. It burnt down before I bought the property. But I was digging around there one day and I heard a clank. So I dug these things up and then took the wire brush to them and put motor oil on them.
Yeah, they're pretty good shape.
Well, they're quite rusty, but still they've got a... Look how the light shines on them over there.
Yeah.
And these are parlor stoves. If you turn around here, you'll see an actual stove right there.
Yeah.
This came out of the Anglican Church Hall. They lent that to us.
That was the furnace of the day. That was.
Yeah. You could burn wood or coal in there. Oh, here's a question. I've asked this for hundreds of people. What was this little dip and the little nubbin there that sticks out on a panel saw? Nobody seems to agree on what it was. They all guess.
All right.
So if anybody knows, I'd like to.
If you're watching Jules Trahan, if you're watching, or Mac McQuinney, Mac McQuinney or Jules Trahan, or anybody else I'm not thinking of right now, we want an answer to that. Why is that little notch there?
And I've got a saw here. It's got the little dip, but it doesn't have the nubbin.
I'm going to guess that it's to put another handle on the other end if somebody wanted to get on the other end and help you out.
No, but it's just a short saw. It's only a little over 2 feet long. You don't need much help on that.
Well, you might.
See, saws like this had an extra handle.
Mm-hmm. I'm just guessing here. What's your guess?
Well, I don't guess because I've heard so many different reasons that I'm all confused now.
If you had any you thought were real good or real bad?
No, I have no idea what it's for. But it's an intriguing question. Some people say it's a sight, but they're guessing too. So I don't know. It'd be fun to find out, though.
Yes. I'm sure there had to be obviously a reason for it. You don't just do that for decorative purposes.
Here's 3 bridges over the English River on Covey Hill Road.
No pictures of the Gulf here?
No. No. It'd be nice to have a painting of that, wouldn't it?
Yes. Tell Mrs. What's her name there?
Mrs. Sherlock. Oh, I don't think she could make it in there. She's quite old now. She paints from her car, right on the road.
Oh, my.
Yeah. And here's a little workbench. Over here it's got some very old saws, the frame saws. And this one is a rip saw. You use it like this, cutting a board in a vise. And this is like a coping saw to cut curves. And you
cut
tighten
curves.
the blade up by turning this little stick here, and that tightens the rope up here, squeeze it together, and it stretches the blade.
Now, what do you mean cutting curves? I like to cut corners once in a while. What are we talking about here?
Well, I can't take it off the wall because I screwed it on. But if you want to cut a circle, for instance, you can turn the blade like that, you see.
I see, so the blade will go at an angle.
Yeah, and so you can cut a circle, or you can cut a scroll, a fleur-de-lis, or whatever.
Well, you're saying you could. No, I couldn't.
Well,
the person operating it could.
A carpenter. Yeah.
All right. Now, is that your hat?
No, I collect hats as well.
That looks like Boxcar Willie's cap, I think.
It could be. Looks old enough.
And more paintings here, all along here.
There's 60 paintings here.
60 pieces of
different
artwork.
artists. This is this one here. That's looking, the border to New York State is just down beyond that house there. It's on Nichols Road.
Nichols Road. I'm not familiar with Nichols Road.
There used to be a custom house. There used to be a custom house about every 5 miles in the horse drawing days. But these mountains are in New York State, the Adirondacks. You'd be looking at probably Moore's Forks right there, over the hill and down in the valley.
Will that be above Cannon's Corners, maybe, or?
No,
No?
not that far along. It's about 5 miles from Moore's.
Okay.
And this is almost on the border, but looking north. There's the same house there, see? And that's looking north from about 100 yards from the border.
Oh yeah, I see the person back there. They painted the person painting the other picture. So I think that's what makes it so unique, is that these aren't just paintings done by local people. These are paintings of the local area.
Yeah, and they're all grouped in the locations. Like this is Nichols Road, and some over here of Hemmingford Village.
How many different artists would you say, Stanley?
There's 19 different artists.
Now this one here is very realistic.
Yeah, that's by Sharon Mark, and she does the realistic style of these two here. Very detailed. Others are more expressionistic. Look at this is the same location by 2 different artists. That's Mrs. Sherlock, Winifred Jennison, These, that's the corner of this house here. And this shed is this one here, and with the barns added. This artist left out the barns.
All depends on your angle and what you're looking to accomplish, and they're both nice paintings in their own right.
Yeah.
Did you have any idea you'd come up with this many when you started asking for them?
Oh, I said to myself I need about 50 or 60 paintings. Because I knew that would fill the room. And as I say, I didn't have any trouble getting that many.
And since you've had this up, have more people come forward saying, next year I'll...
Oh yeah, several artists have said that they'd like to put their paintings in. Other people that have the paintings in their homes.
There's an auction, looks like, here.
Yeah, this is William Brown's auction. When he died, the estate had an auction. That was quite a while ago, 1971.
Very, very nice.
This is interesting here, the rail splitter. And we've got one of the old wooden mallets that they would have used for splitting the rails.
It's amazing how well those rails have held up.
Oh, they'll last over 100 years, especially if they're out in the open. As long as they are not lying on the ground.
And they can breathe.
Yeah, then they last for years and years.
Yeah, my wife and I decided to put up a rail fence this year, and we went out along the wall between my farm where I live and where my father's farm is next to it, and found a whole bunch of rails in great shape, and it makes a beautiful fence.
Oh, they do, yeah, and long lasting. And they're not easy to push over either. Here's a drawing of different types of rail fences. And this is a part of a gate. It comes from my property. It's not a fence post, but a gate. And the small rails would be carved to fit into those holes.
Uh-huh. All right. Anything else, Stanley?
But did you get a shot of these slaves?
Okay. The one on the right is probably a little older than the one on the left.
Yeah.
Okay, we've bid goodbye to Stanley Triggs, and we've moved over. As you can see, not much has changed in beautiful downtown Hemmingford in the past year. Grass is nice and green.
Yes.
And
Plenty of rain lately.
and we moved over here into the other building, and this all is a. I know the other one is called Keddy. Is this both called Keddy
Yes,
Museum?
it's the Keddy Museum. It's all connected.
Okay, and we're talking with Thomas Cleland. Now, Thomas, if I saw your name and didn't know it was pronounced Cleland, I would probably say Cleland. Are you
That's
called Thomas
correct,
Cleland
too.
more often than Cleland, probably? By people who don't know you?
Yes, that's right. That's quite quite true.
And you don't wonder why, though, right? 'Cause there's
No, not really.
Okay. This is that beautiful diorama that they did last year. It's. Do you know what the scale is on this, Thomas?
Not really. No, it's. I wouldn't know what the scale is, but it's
big.
it's probably. There's the houses are all shown close together now. If you go in the village now and look, you'll see probably 3 or 4 houses between some of these houses. So
Yeah, it's not as far as the acreage. It's not
but it
scale.
is, as it was in 1899. And the pictures on the wall, as I say, they match the old original pictures and then the up-to-date pictures. These were all assembled by a local lady who is Mrs. Chantal Poisson-Fortin, who has since moved away.
Oh my.
And she has very kindly donated all the pictures you see on the wall and all the explanations that she did in both languages. She donated it to the Hemmingford Historical Archives, which we were very glad to get because
I can imagine.
there was an awful lot of work went into it. And I don't want to miss anybody else, but there was a lot of other pictures given, too many to mention names, but there's other pictures, as you'll see on the wall, that were donated by local people, but this whole setup on the wall was by this one person, and we were very glad to have got it donated to us.
Yeah, enough there for a book.
There certainly is. Since last year, they've moved a portion of the Hemmingford Historical Archives, which are located in the basement of the Hemmingford Town Hall, have moved down here with a display. They couldn't bring all their things, but they do have census records, cemetery records, church records, old pictures of that are in the archives, and
Now this is normally near the library?
it is part of the library in the basement of the city hall.
And the rest of the year that's where it can be found?
That's where it can be found, right? As of now, it's as of the end of Old Home Week. It will be open on Saturday mornings from 10 to 12, but hopefully there will be another day in the week that it will be open. I can't specify right now what day it'll be, but hopefully.
Okay.
No, and as you know, last year they got a bicentennial project. They published a book of 200 years, and this is a
You might think it's half French, half English, but this is the English version right here.
over 600 pages in English of pictures and stories, and there's a lot of stories.
How many pages in French?
Basically the same. It was translated. The pictures, some of the, like the cover of the book, reflected the local, our local French doctor, our Mayor Fortin, and Mr. Fillon, who was where the basic book was translated. It's whatever is in the English book is in the French book.
Okay, you say, brought up an interesting point that I hadn't thought of before. You say the English book was translated. Was the original book all written in English, or did you have some French
about
authors?
90%. There was about 2 or 3 people wrote articles in French, and it was translated into English, but then the rest of it had to be translated into French, which was quite a major operation. It took nearly a year to get it done.
I can imagine. And history going right back, I went through it briefly. I haven't been able to read the whole thing since you hand-delivered it last week, much to my pleasure. It cost $35 Canadian,
Right.
which is not a bad cost when you convert that to American dollars. And
$5 charge for the mailing if we have to mail them. I'll let my wife tell you how to order it or anything like that.
okay.
But
Now there's other journals here too?
yes, this is the Huntington Chattahoochee Valley Historical Society. There it's their yearly journal. It's just out. We have some of the older ones to sell as well, and this was one that they redid of the 1877-1977 history of Hemmingford Village, which was completely different to the 200 year of
Right, of the town.
now the town. The village was incorporated in 1877.
Okay, well, we got looking at this nice quilt. This quilt was made by the Barrington Quilters.
Right, and
It's to celebrate the 200th anniversary.
right, and it was donated to the
Bicentennial Committee.
Bicentennial Committees.
Yeah. Okay, and this is Mrs. Clellan over here.
Yes.
Hi.
No, Tom was saying that I do a lot of work with the books and taking orders, and if they have to be mailed out, we mail them. And we've got forms here all the time, or in the actual archives where you can order them. We have shipped maybe 35 books to the States, and some as far as way. We have some gone to England and Ireland and Hawaii, and a lot on the West Coast have gone. So it's amazing how many people are really connected with Hemmingford that you don't realize till it comes out on the internet, and then I'm looking for, so-and-so name and to try to find it. I work in the archives with Tom, and it's really interesting, the work that has been done to get the records like we have, like our cemetery book, which is it's a listing of all the cemeteries in the area. Originally they were all separate books, and now it's been put into one alphabetically, so anybody can either call or come in, and within minutes we can tell them if their name is in there.
Well, they hope their name isn't in there.
Yeah, and also that we can tell them exactly where they're buried, which cemetery it is. We don't have to look it up. And their wife or children and the year they were born and the year they died is all listed in that green book. That's what we call, almost like our Bible here.
You have just one copy of it?
Yes,
Well,
and it's not for sale.
No, but I mean, you don't have a backup copy?
No,
Well, I'm sure there's a...
I guess whoever did it must have it in the internet, I would imagine. It has to be in there.
It was compiled by Gary Bix, and Jeannie Bix did the groundwork for the book, and they're responsible for
So they've
a
got
lot
that.
of work,
they've got that
and they're
information
still
there.
working on it. They're still trying to enlarge it.
Yes, in our area, Clyde Rabideau Sr., who was the father of the former mayor of Plattsburgh, is going and doing the whole county, every cemetery in the county. He's going from cemetery to cemetery and checking out every tombstone. It's a massive undertaking.
Well,
If I can use the word undertaking with cemeteries.
That's been done here. There's still 2 cemeteries to do. They go in and cut the wood or everything that needs to be repaired, straighten stones and everything. And if it's a stone that isn't legible, they are making signs to put on it to if they can get it out themselves, what the writing is.
That's another group. That's the
That's
cemetery.
another cemetery group is another group of
Jim
men.
Laurie is,
Yeah, Jim Laurie's in charge of it, but they all volunteer to work at it.
Okay, when I came
it's
here,
ongoing. We're still there's a cemetery on the Napa Road that they're just started into. It's quite unique. There's a church that fell down over 100 years ago in the middle of the cemetery, and the stones are all down, and they're just taking the brush out now and getting to the point where they can get the stones turned over and see what is really going on. It's quite a project.
yes. So you have people contacting you via the internet? You're on the internet then?
Oh, yes.
What's your website? Do you know?
I don't know what it is. Sorry about that. We have a local boy or fellow that is very active in this, and he takes all the information from the name and everything, and then he'll come up to the archives and go through and see what he can find on that family name. And if there's nothing, he still notifies them there's nothing, or else he gets the information and sends it to the people.
That's great.
So there is a website.
All right, here it is. It's a long one here.
Yes.
All right, let's see if I can read it here. I've got to back up to get my focus done here. On-the-job training. Don't move. I'll try to... There we go. Now, HTT members... Zoom, DMARC, Cemetery... I don't know. I think I'd put in my search engine Hemmingford Cemetery Records and see what happens. That's quite a website. Okay, so if they call the library, they could get that website
Yeah.
from there?
Yeah.
If they want, okay. All right, so you've had people coming in here. Well, when I
Yes.
came here earlier, there was people that just dropped in today, right?
They're from Florida.
Florida, and interesting enough, his father was born in Morris Forks, New York.
Oh.
But the family originated in La Prairie, as far as they can determine, and they're trying to search. They haven't found anything in our records, but they have the Clinton County records with them. They're going through them.
What's their last name?
Brinkley.
Brinkley?
Brinkley.
No, well, the one that we're researching is not.
No, but
You have
the
it.
man himself, Brinkley.
Okay.
And his
Na-
father was Vivier. Vivier.
Okay,
Vivier.
VVA, there's a lot of VVAs and Moores, and
Yeah, yeah.
there's so many different spellings once you get into a name.
That's what it is. He gave me a lot of spellings, and we're going to try and do some research either through La Prairie or on some other method, either in Montreal at the big archives, but we'll see if we can't find them some more information on it.
Yeah, they
But
got
it
that
dates
nice-
back further than what our dates go.
They've got that nice genealogical
Yeah.
place in St. John's too, St.
Yeah.
John's sur Richelieu.
Yeah.
And we were lucky, we tied in probably 10 years ago now with Jean Lebrun
Oh,
from,
yeah.
from Lacole. He just
No,
did a
he-
great job with my wife and my families. He did a great job of going back, and because my family is from Quebec, the Castines, and my mother's side is Trudeau, which which you may have heard of in the
I don't know why we have.
yeah, Pierre. My
Here
grand
in our local member of parliament, Walter Smith,
Yeah, my
who is now
grandfather.
deceased.
My grandfather always said that Pierre was a distant relative, so I've never gone back to.
Oh, that's
But there are
true.
Pierres and there are Elliots in our ancestry, so it's very possible.
Mickey Maynard does a lot of work for us too. in
Does he? That-
Plattsburgh. He
uh-huh.
really works with us.
Yeah, Marshall Maynard's son.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. They were here
Maynard
last
was over
weekend.
here last Saturday and spent about an hour and a half with us.
Last Saturday?
Yes.
Mickey
Last-
was here.
Last
Oh, Mickey
Saturday.
was there. Not Marshall, because Marshall was busy with his alumni reunion
Oh, no,
last
he
year.
was here too. His
Was
father
it Sunday
here.
or Saturday? I don't remember now.
Maybe
One of them
Sunday.
was.
Maybe it could have been
Maybe
Sunday.
Sunday,
His
yes, it
father
was.
here.
His father.
And an aunt that's visiting from Ohio.
Yeah, they had their big reunion last week.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I also do the staff, and that's quite a job, because, you know, it's always somebody can come or they can't come, so I'm always chasing around looking for somebody, but there has to be somebody that has been working to have a little bit of experience in all of this.
We're all
Mm-hmm.
kind
We're
of
all,
off,
we're
No,
all
we're on.
learning. We're all
Yeah.
learning. so
Well, the
it's
more you
like-
do, the more you learn.
That's right, exactly.
And that's they're saying the Covey Hill Road. That changed a little bit, hasn't it?
Yes, yes.
Is that right from?
Looks like ice storm there.
Yeah. Yes, that's one of my favorite roads. Though I go up to Magnetic Hill and coast.
Yeah, we lived on that road. Did you get the quilt?
Yes, we got the quilt. Now you notice you got the church records out here.
Yeah.
Now I know in the States, a name like Cleland, it sounds Anglican or something, but and I'm French in my heritage, so it's cast iron. But
Yeah.
in so that's Catholic. In the States, the Catholic records are a lot better than the Protestant records. Is that pretty much the same here in Canada?
Well, we haven't got all the Catholic church ones in yet. We're still getting them. But we have Presbyterian, of course, in the old days was mostly Presbyterians, and then they broke apart, and then they have what they call the United Church now. And then we have Catholic records, and we have Anglican records, and we also have the Methodists. We haven't got a lot on the Methodist records, but they're great because you can look up a family name, and you'd get, if it's there, you get the person's name and his wife and her name and the names of all their children and the year they all died and and the cemetery they're buried in, which I think is really good because you can look for a long, long time and walk a lot of cemeteries where you can visit the archives and get it. You can sit down and get it, which is a lot easier. And then we know where what church cemetery they're buried in.
I think the people writing those down could have had little chance to guess how important it would be to people in our era.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it's so important to us, but it is important to us to find out this information.
Yeah, I think more people are interested in history now than there used to be. I'm always pushing up here that the younger generation do it, because I say 50 years from now you're going to be history, and if you don't do something about it now, nobody's ever going to know, Right. So we won't be here for sure 50 years from now. And I think this is important. And a lot of them are coming through with the information. That takes a little while, but, I said just start on it. And,
Yeah, that's right.
yeah. So
What we do have in the archives is a lot of the old deeds of the property, and it's very important that if people have copies of the deeds, if they bring them in, we can photocopy them, and they become part of the records in the archives. And it's very useful in people searching. They buy a property, it goes by a lot number, and they can go back in our archives and search the lot number for it.
Yeah,
It gives the whole history,
who owned
right?
it 150 years ago.
Yeah,
Right?
that's
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
It's very important that
I think so. All right. Now this chair here, this is an old chair here. As long as this chair, when was this?
this chair here, that's staff chair.
Oh, that's that. Okay, that's not part of the display.
So
All right, we're gonna go off to the side here, and we'll pick up again inside.
play in there.
All right. Now this is part of your display before we go in now.
And they came in to try to set it up, but what was happening, the old cords were breaking. So you see, this is when they have the shuttle to go. They put a shuttle, they change these positions, and the shuttle will go and it makes designs. You can see they had started here, but it was all coming apart. Now this is a piece that would have been made on this loom.
Amazing. You could know when to.
To do it, but you have a pattern. I used to weave, and you have your pattern, and you set it up, and then you see exactly where to, which way your bees will be. See, they're all not working very good today, but this is the big job: is setting up your weft in here to get started on it. So and you have your petals that change. You see, you can change them this way.
I see.
But this is just a piece. When they saw they couldn't, the girl that was going to do it, she brought in this piece so you can see the designs. And they make placemats and bedspreads, and we'll make everything on them. And so we were hoping to have it working, but anyway, they can see it anyway.
There's always next year, right?
Pardon?
There's always next year, right?
I hope.
All right.
And it's all velvet.
Okay, we're in a little side room. You're telling me this is a velvet
Yeah.
quilt?
It's velvet, yeah. It's velvet, and it's what they call the log cabin pattern. And it's owned by Margaret Keddy, whose husband owns this building. And it belonged to Edwards's on Covey Hill. An aunt of Margaret's had made it.
I see.
Now
Is
this
all
is-
crafts?
It's all,
A craft room here?
yeah. And this here is a quilt, and anybody's welcome to sit down and quilt on it. I have put a few stitches in it, but not too many. But then you have to roll it. I don't know. It's put on here and it's rolled up, and as they quilt a piece of it, they decide then what the design is going to be. And in here, this type, you're mostly only going to go up and down on it. But and then this is what they call a hooking, and you can do this either with wool, or you can do it with strips of material like this. And you have your punch. Oh, there it is. And then you just go down through and bring it up. And so we also have this for people to try if they would like to.
So you have your pattern all laid out.
Pattern is, you buy it that way, or I don't know if you can now, but in the old days you bought it this way.
Well, in the real old
It's really
days,
old because you see it's full of holes.
yeah, in the real old days, they probably drew their own pattern.
Possibly. Yeah, they would do their own pattern, but this was a bought one.
Yeah.
So they're suggesting that if you want to try it.
All right, get hands on here.
Yeah. And then
There's a 1932 calendar on the wall.
it's an old sewing machine that you run by hand. This is really old. And it's a Singer, which is a famous make, but it's but then you had to use your arms instead of your feet to make it go. And this
You
is
probably have one of the kids on the side.
yeah, turning it while
Where you had your hands on the
yeah.
on the
And this is the wool that's been spun and put on a wheel, and then when they spin it, did they do that out there today?
No,
No.
no.
They spin it off the spinning wheel. Well, it was over in the corner in the other room, and then it goes onto here. Now, a lot of these things are all old antique. The girl who owns this collects antique things to do with sewing machines, with sewing, and that's her sewing machine.
I see.
Yeah, so that, this is just an old sewing machine,
And
but
this
it's
has
the
got
pedal one.
Yeah, got the foot pedal.
Yeah, a foot pedal on it.
That's the type that I used to use right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You
then-
do believe I did a lot of sewing in my youth, don't you?
And here is, I remember, dating myself, that in your flour always came in cloth bags and it was stamped. And the big thing they did was, when the bag was empty of flour or sugar, my mother would bleach them, and they either made tea towels or pillowcases, and this would all come out. And a lot of people remember when the old cotton bags were bleached. And even one of the girls said that her mother used to make dresses out of it. But my mother was always pillowcases or tea towels. But so not too many younger generations see the bags like that.
And I don't think too many kids today would accept
wear it
wearing
No,
a flour,
that's right.
flour sack.
Yeah.
But you didn't waste back then. You.
No. Well, you didn't have the money. You had to use it.
That's right.
You had to do it that way. There's the spinning wheel. We went by that. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Yeah. And that's weaving that can be done on the loom outside. But for little strips like this, they use a small one. It's only maybe 24 inches wide, and the placemats, and then these are stoles that would be made on the narrower, not as big a loom as that one is.
All right, very nice little display. And again, this is open 10 to 5 every day?
10 to 5 every day this week, yeah,
coming week?
starting tomorrow, and right through to a week Sunday.
All right, so that's for those of
And
you.
then where we'll be after that, I don't know. They may decide to leave it open till the end of August, but they haven't decided yet. It'll be Stan's decision, because Stan is responsible for this.
Okay. We've now moved into another room, and I do want to point out for those of you watching that that we're we're kind of overlooking the stuff we looked at last year. So there's a lot of stuff that we're not showing you that we showed in last year's tape. So we're trying to focus this year. We've got we end up with well over an hour's worth of tape here just on the new stuff in the Hemmingford Museum, and we're now going to be chatting with
Beryl Tovim.
Beryl. That's your first name?
That's right. It's my first name.
Is that the real name, Beryl?
That's a real name. It's an English name because I'm from England.
Okay. I don't remember this Indian last year. This new?
I don't know. Perhaps I could just tell you
Sure.
that this whole collection is absolutely new this year, and it's a real prize because it's a collection of a gentleman who lives in Saint Clotilde, Quebec. He's a dentist, but he really wishes to remain anonymous. And he has hundreds of such collection. This is 87. We've got it written on the board there. I'll show you afterwards.
Okay.
And Stanley has told me that there are hundreds in his barn. And so when he was very happy that we agreed, because it's never had a public airing before. I think he's a gentleman, he says he's been collecting since the age of 18. Flea markets, junkyards, auctions, all different artists. Now, some of them are dead and some of them are alive, but one in particular, we have the fortunate situation that he's going to come tomorrow afternoon and give us a demonstration. And that is Monsieur René Dandurand, and these are some of his works.
This bottom row, or
Well, there are a few dotted around because
Okay,
Stanley has beautifully noted everything in his professional way. But here we have number 1. Oh yes, Couple and Child.
Okay.
René Dandurand.
Okay. Yes. And we should point out, I don't think we've introduced what this is. These are all wood carvings. They're all wood carvings right here. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Wood carvings, and Stanley has collected for this first exhibition those that relate to horse and cart, because that's the theme of our exhibition, our whole museum. But he has many more, and hopefully in the future we'll have different ones. But now Mr. Dandurand, as far as I understand, is a man in his 60s, so some of these could have been done fairly recently. In fact, there's one over there that he told us he'd done the 1990. I'll show you that in a moment. But there's a lot of detail about the artist and whether they're dead or alive, but as I said, dates we don't have. But I have to tell you, every time I come to this room and look at them, I'm just amazed by the detail and the workmanship.
It's amazing the talent some people have, huh?
Absolutely, and the hours they spend. Look at that lovely owl up there. By Monsieur Paradis, but we don't have a date. This old canoe has been converted to a cabinet. And
Yep, just amazing.
if I can perhaps...
So how many articles are there in here, do you know?
Yes, I can read it what Stanley's actually written. He calls it Treasures Revealed.
Uh-huh.
This selection of 87 carvings and models were garnered from an extensive collection amassed by a resident over a period of 30 years. The total collection, numbering the thousands, were put together by this collector. And he says, although the collection is one of the largest and the finest of folk art in Canada, it's never had a public airing before. Most of the pieces were created by Quebec artists, with a few from Ontario and the Maritimes.
None of that stuff from the United States, right? Just good Canadian.
Not that we wouldn't have put some in had we been able to get our hands on it, but this gentleman, I think, sells some of his stuff, but again, very low-key. This one over here is one of Mr. Dandurand's, and he told us, I wasn't here when he came, but he told us he made that in 1990. So, you know, some of them look older than they might be. And tomorrow afternoon... On
purpose?
On purpose, yes. All out of one piece of wood.
Wow.
Which is one piece of wood.
That is incredible.
That also one piece of
There's
wood.
A raccoon here.
He looks fairly old, doesn't he?
Yes, he looks like he's...
A little worn out. This is by a gentleman, Albert Demeur from Valleyfield.
He's been outside in the weather, I can tell.
I think so. But I find the detail of the horses is just amazing. If you stand back, when I stand back and look at that, yes, absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely, it just comes alive.
A couple of weeks ago, I went someplace I'd always wanted to go, the Remington Museum in Ogdensburg, New York, where Frederick Remington, a famous Western painter and sculptor, has his artwork there. Just incredible what people can do with the talent.
Is it again folk art, would you say?
Well, it's he lived in the late 1800s, early 1900s, and he helped shape the image that we have of the Old West with his paintings and his sculptures.
Mm-hmm.
His works his originals go for a couple $100,000 to $1 million.
Is that so? Is that so? Mm-hmm.
But it's just
I've never seen these on sale, but also they're fairly pricey, I think. And I understand there's an interest, a growing interest in folk art.
oh yes, this is fantastic.
Okay, and that's no, that's not Mr. Dandurand, that one is. So if anybody is interested, well, I don't know, this will go on air before.
Yeah,
Tomorrow
this is going to be
afternoon?
on. This is going to be on. No, it won't be on by tomorrow. It'll be
Okay.
on by Sunday.
Okay. But this is really, and of course a lot of work had to go into the actual cleaning and repairing of these items, which were done by our curator, Mr. Triggs, who's, you know, really a professional, and we're very proud of the way it's been put together. So we're very happy. Anybody who's interested in this kind of work, come see us.
Yes, and it's something that a family can bring the kids, and the kids are going to
That's
enjoy
right.
it. So it's not
Absolutely,
just,
the
you know,
kids do. The kids really are quite amazed.
You know, and whether you're 80 or 8, you're going to enjoy this. So
Absolutely.
it's something that all the generations can come and enjoy this room.
And did Mr. Triggs tell you that next Saturday afternoon we are going to have a demonstration of horse and carriage? Now, what's the name of the gentleman? Monsieur Bergeron and Monique Dandurand. And it's going to be here on next Saturday afternoon at 11 and 2. That's on the 12th.
Oh, okay.
So this is, I guess, this kind of carriage that will be shown.
You say those French names very well for somebody from England.
Well, I've lived here 30 years, you know, so so we have to try. Look at that. I think that's so great. There's so much character in the faces, too. That's what always amazes me. In fact, look at this wonderful man. I can tell you that in the village, there's a man who looks just like him, such a handsome, mind you, he looks taller than the average French Canadian, but I think that's very fine.
Tremendous amount of detail in there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, people didn't watch television, I don't think, that much, or this gentleman obviously doesn't today, and spends their time doing it.
That's right.
Just amazing.
And there's other things that people waste their time on besides watching television.
That's true.
There's one pet peeve I have that I won't mention on on the air because
Oh, well, I shouldn't say that about television.
Well, that's
This is your métier, isn't it?
that's all right.
But this old fella.
That looks like a chainsaw carved.
Yes, that's what they tell me.
Yeah,
I didn't realise that, but that's...
I'd say that's a chainsaw carving.
Really neat, though.
Yeah, up in Tupper Lake every year they have their Woodsman Days, and part of it is a competition where they get anywhere from 6 to a dozen chainsaw carvers that compete, and
Is that
then they
so?
auction off their pieces. And
Because it's quite delicate in a way, when you consider a chainsaw is quite a
yes,
weighty item.
yes. They have different saws, different size saws for different pieces of work.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Just to do those eyes, you know, just imagine doing that with a chainsaw.
Oh my goodness.
And getting into that mouth to clean it.
I mean, it has to be all done with a chainsaw.
Yes.
Is that the rule?
Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, anyway.
All right.
Anyway, that's our exhibition of wood carvings, and next year we hope to have another grouping from this same gentleman, if he'll let us have it, because he has many more.
That's fantastic, and we'll point out again. I'll show this more than just this year, this tape, but
Okay.
for those watching it in the year 2000, we want to remind you these museums that we just looked at are going to be open all week long from 10 till 5, climaxing with the parade. Do you know what time the parade is on Sunday the 13th?
It's usually mid-afternoon. I would say, at a guess, between 2 and 3, but say 2 o'clock to be.
Okay, I think it's at 2, but I'm going to have to find out because I want to tape it. And you'll find a lot of things here to interest you. Like I said, we didn't get into the stuff that was here last year because we covered that. We wanted to just show you the stuff that's brand new. And is Mr. Fortin having his museum open, do you know?
Yes, he is. In fact, I have the program, if you haven't seen it. Oh dear, I left it outside. I have an actual written program.
Okay,
which
well,
I should give you, really.
and
The library's having a book sale. Our library, local library, has a book sale which starts it'll be on open Monday, Wednesday, and then Saturday and Sunday in the basement of the town hall. Well worth Good bargains.
Okay.
And do you
uh,
know about the T-shirts? Do you, that
no,
are
I don't
sold?
know about the t-shirts.
Well, the T-shirts are, one lady every year, she has a design that she brings out. Some of them she paints herself. It's in aid of the library and the archives. And this year the tent will be right next door here. So, and that will be open as of Monday. Yes, all the week in the afternoon.
Okay, and for those of you who don't know where we are, just if you're coming from Moores, which is the way I got here, you get to that four corners where it's four stop signs, you take a right, and it's right across from the school. And the name of the street?
Champlain,
Champlain, easy name to remember. I'm from Champlain,
opposite the elementary school. So
right,
you
right
can't
across
miss
from the
it.
school.
Can't miss it.
So easy to find. All right, then wrap it up, and also take time to visit Mr. Fortin's museum. He's got a private museum that he has with a lot of interesting stuff in there too, Gaëtan Fortin. So we hope you'll consider Hemmingford when your plans. If you could company up this week, great place to take them. They can take in a culture that's different, but not too different from what we're used